Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. In my last guide video, I didn't address cancels and how to use your skill points, so I decided to make a video talking about both. There are a lot of cancels and I tried to add as many as I could find and the ones that I use the most. If I missed any good cancels, feel free to comment in the comment section down below. If you are brand new to the class, I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with the names and icons of the skills so you can keep up with the video. Alright, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to address is what I don't consider to be a cancel, so here's the full animation of Katana Shower, and here's me coming out of it a little bit sooner than you normally would. The animation still happens, but I'm not really cancelling it, so I'm not going to talk about those type of skills. It is still good to know which skills can flow after one another, so I highly recommend that you tinker with that, but I'm mainly going to be addressing actual cancels that remove parts of the animation. Okay, the first skill that we're going to be looking at is called Smokescreen, and this one has many cancels, so there's the full animation for it. When it comes to Smokescreen, we're going to be using skills before the animation to cancel the beginning of it, like that. So there are many skills that you can use before Smokescreen to remove the actual wind-up animation. And because Smokescreen is such a useful skill, it is very important to understand which skills you can use before it to remove the wind-up animation. The large majority of your pre-awaken kit can actually be used before Smokescreen. As you're seeing now, there's a lot of different cancels for it. So the fact that it has so many options, it's a super armor and it's a CC makes it very useful. You can use it to catch people as well as save yourself and disengage, which is great. I highly recommend you learn the large majority of these cancels so you can save yourself in a pinch or protect yourself while you're trying to catch your opponent. I don't necessarily use all of these cancels, however I still feel as though it's important to know as many cancels as you can so you can save yourself in a pinch in any situation. DC swap pairs really well with Smokescreen, just please note that it only works with D and no other directional input. This last cancel can be a little bit tricky. If you don't time it properly, you're going to end up doing heart aiming, so what you want to do is hit spacebar the second they use Shadow Slash and then it'll proc Smokescreen instead of heart aiming. The window can be kind of small, so some people decide to lock heart aiming. Personally, I like heart aiming, so I just try to hit spacebar as soon as I can. The next skill we're going to be working with is called Shadow Stomp. Please note that the frontal guard that is with Shadow Stomp is only applied at the beginning of the animation, so that means when you're using skills to cancel it, you're also cancelling out the frontal guard. That's not to say that you can't use it. I actually highly encourage you to use it very often. It's a very powerful skill, just be careful when you do. And not only is it a really powerful skill, it has many different cancels, so it'll be really good to learn most of them so you can adapt in multiple situations. A few months ago they gave us this new skill, Flashing Light, and for this one you actually press spacebar to cancel. This next cancel is actually pretty cool. You use Smokescreen and then Stomp. And what's really nice about this is that it even works with the cancelled Smokescreen. So that means from any situation that you can cancel a Smokescreen, you can follow through with a Shadow Stomp, whether you want to re-engage or disengage quickly. The next skill I'll be talking about is Beheading of the Dead, so that was the full animation for it. And even though this skill doesn't have as many cancels as some of the other skills that I've covered so far, it's still very good to know which skills can cancel out of it. Since the animation is fairly long, you really don't want to get caught out of it, and it is a really useful skill, so you want to utilize it. Balde Spin is another skill that doesn't have too many cancels, but it's still good to know which skills you can cancel out of it. And like any other cancel, since you'll be shortening the animation, you'll also be shortening how long your super armor is up for, so if you see over here when the icon disappeared. However, you do have Smokescreen as an option in case you want to follow through with a super armor, or you could cancel out with Ghost Step as an iframe. And for our last skill that we're going to be working on for cancels, we're going to be doing Ghost Claw. This skill can be cancelled very early into the animation, and what I really like about this is that means that you can give yourself an attack speed buff very quickly in the middle of a duel. I won't be showing every single animation cancel for this skill, only because all of the pre-awakened skills can shorten this animation. The only exception to this is actually Mock Explosion on a hotbar. That's the only awakened skill you can use to cancel it. Although technically you can just hit C and use C-swap to cancel straight into awakening as well. Okay, that'll be it for cancels. Let me know in the comments if I missed any good cancels that you like to use. Next up, I'm going to be talking about skill points. Okay, I'm going to show how I would use my points to allocate for PvE and then PvP. First, I'm going to show all the skills that I think you'll need to get by with, and then after that, I'll show all the skills that I think you should level up. This build is going to be catered more towards those who don't have many skill points and are only going to be grinding specifically. Also, this is assuming that you're going to be grinding at a spot where the mobs aren't too tanky. I'll be leaving my add-ons in the description down below, as well as my last video which shows which combos I like to use also. This specific skill build should work fine with one of the short combos that I displayed in that video. Okay, for your pre-awakening skills, we're mostly going to be choosing skills that give you movement, do a bit of AoE, pre-buffing, and also level up for your raw bombs. Again, this is more of an SP budget build for when you're grinding for SP, If I don't level something up, it doesn't mean that the skill isn't good, I'm just prioritizing skills that I think will help you grind as you're getting your SP up. Also, if you aren't aware, when you hold shift and then click on a skill to level it up, it'll level it up all the way if you have the amount of SP required. Lastly, you're going to be choosing your bombs. The first raw bomb you don't really need if you're on a budget, so we're actually not going to be choosing it. Normally we would take Oni Shadow, otherwise we're going to be taking our Ninja Shackles all the way up. That way we can get Illusions of Restraint. Now, Ghost Claw is a really good skill. It gives you a 17% attack speed buff as a pre-buff. However, if you're limited on SP, you don't necessarily really need it, but it would be nice to have. So for this skill build, we've only used 850 SP points, which is not that much. Next up, I'm going to be leveling up all the skills that I like to use while I'm grinding. Now, you might not necessarily need the exact same skills as I use depending on where you grind. It really depends on how tanky the mobs are relative to your AP. Personally, most of my damage comes from my Awaken kit, and then my movement, my pre-buffs come from my pre-Awaken kit. If you're clearing monsters easily, Corrupt and Sudden Decap aren't really necessary, but they're nice to have when the mobs get tankier. I recommend that you do your combo on wherever you're grinding and seeing which skills are unnecessary if you're tight on SP, so you can cut down on which skills you're leveling. Some skills you want to level not necessarily because they're going to give you much more damage, but mostly because you're going to want to cut down the cooldown so you can use them more quickly. Personally, I prefer using skill combos to move from pack to pack, but if you don't feel like using combos, Target Chase is nice to level up. At this point, I'm mostly going to be leveling up skills to do more damage, have lower cooldowns, and also so I can pick off stragglers in case a few mobs are left over when I'm done my combo. Even if some of these skills aren't necessarily your main damage dealing skills or movement skills when you're grinding, it'll be good to max them out for later on when you're grinding spots that are a bit tankier. Having slightly lower cooldowns, dealing a bit more damage, and having a few more skill options is going to go a long way as you grind for longer periods of time. For Brace, personally I just use potions, but if you don't want to use potions, you're welcome to level it up. And so finally, after maxing out all the skills that I use when I'm grinding, I've used approximately 1.9k SP. I suppose you can also level up Vengeful Barrier, your Q block. It's pretty nice to have when you want to use storage maids or you want to stop for a second. Okay, I'm also going to do a budget PvP build. Ideally, when you're doing PvP, you do want to have as much SP as possible so you're not missing any skills. But in case you want to do some PvP and you don't have enough SP yet, I'm going to be choosing skills that I feel I use the most and that are most important when I'm doing PvP. That's not to say that the other skills aren't usable, I just feel as though certain skills take priority over others. And similar to my add-ons for PvE, I'm going to be leveling up skills that I primarily use when I'm doing duels. Some of the skills that I'm putting up aren't necessarily your top priority, something like Shuriken Throw you don't have to max out, I'm just maxing out all the skills that I'm using. Personally, I would recommend making a trial character if you really are tight on SP and you want to practice some PvP. However, if you're adamant on using your character, then I would recommend using skills that give you protection, movement, and then damage. But you are going to need everything, so I would recommend either making the trial character or grinding up more SP. And I don't mean you're going to need to level up every single skill, what I mean is you're going to need to be able to move comfortably, protect yourself, and deal damage. Alright, after leveling up all your skills and getting your raw bombs, you would have spent just a little over 1.5k SP. Now, depending on your and your opponent's gear, you can be a little bit more stingy, but I still do recommend that you take time to grind out SP so you can max out all the skills that you need. And so finally, after you use all your skill points for PvE and PvP, you would have used about 2.1k SP. Which might seem like a lot, but they recently buffed spots for SPs, so you got this. Alright, well, that'll be it for this video. Hopefully this was able to help you understand cancels a bit more and how to use your skill points. I tried to share information that I thought would be helpful, but if I did miss anything or if you didn't understand anything and I didn't express it properly, feel free to ask me in the comments or pass by my Twitch and ask me over there. Anyways, as always, thank you very much for watching and take care. Bye.